At the beginning of every season, NBA teams are met with certain expectations. These expectations are set due to the amount of talent on a team, due to the amount of money allocated to different players, and a bunch of other factors. So with that being said, some teams are expected to rebuild, and some other teams are expected to be in the playoffs, while some are expected to make deep postseason runs and even championship runs. Some teams manage to meet these expectations, some teams manage to exceed these expectations, but other teams manage to wildly disappoint these expectations. And we're going to talk about 3 teams that have done that this season. If you like basketball content, make sure you join the family. If you like college football content, make sure you join the family. We're building something here. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and we would love to have you be a part of our community. Now, the first team that I want to bring up is the Atlanta Hawks. Now, if y'all don't know, I feel like I said it so many times on this channel, but I am a Hawks fan. I am a diehard Hawks fan. I've been a Hawks fan for about 10 years now, and we have been utterly disappointing. Now, 2 years ago, Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks, they made a magical run. They over-exceeded expectations. They were on the opposite side of the spectrum. They made a conference finals run, and they pushed the eventual champions to 6 games. This led to the Hawks buying in on that core and running it back and trying to make another deep playoff run, but they need a little bit more than Kevin Huerter and John Collins, and they need another ball handler next to Trae. Then they went out and got that. They picked up DeJounte Murray to play next to Trae, and the next season it was still kind of disappointing. There was a cloud over their head with John Collins. Nate McMillan didn't really want to be there, so they moved on from John Collins, they moved on from Nate McMillan, and everybody kind of expected the Hawks to, after Trae Young and DeJounte Murray gelling for a year, a really good coach in Quinn Snyder, Jalen Johnson even making that breakout season, everybody kind of expected the Hawks to be a lot better. I've seen a lot of preseason predictions saying that they could be a 6 seed, a 5 seed, a 4 seed, and the Hawks are 10-14. So what's been going on with this team? Well, to start off, Trae Young started off the season abysmally. He was playing some of the worst basketball I ever seen in my life. The first 20 games of the season, he was averaging 21 points a game, 10 assists a game. He was shooting 33% from the field and 27% from 3. Some of the worst basketball I had ever seen, and boy, I was mad. As a Hawks fan, I was livid. But since that 41 piece against the Magic, he's picked it up. He's averaging 30 points a game, 11 assists, 45% from the field, and 39% from 3. He's playing a lot better, but there's still a problem. They're still having trouble winning games. So why is that? I think that this team is very poorly constructed around Trae. When we look back to that 2021 season where they extremely exceeded their expectations, there was still a reason why they were so good. They had really good spacing. That was the year when John Collins was shooting 40% from 3. They had Kevin Huerter, who was a really good shooter. It seems like DeAndre Hunter peaked back then, and Clint Capella was still a very good NBA center. Nowadays, you have DeJounte Murray, who he can hit open shots, but that's not really his game. He doesn't really add a lot of pressure to the rim. His game is a lot of mid-range jump shots, and that kind of can lead to stagnant offense. He's still a very good player, but it doesn't fit next to Trae that well. His defense isn't as good as advertised as we thought we were getting when he moved to Atlanta. And then you got DeAndre Hunter, who can be iffy from 3. Then you have Jalen Johnson, who, yes, he's shooting 40% from 3, but we don't really see him as a 3-point threat yet. He's only shooting 2.7 a game. If he becomes a 3-point threat, that would be great because he's having an amazing season for a third-year player, but it's like we don't really see him as a dangerous threat from 3 yet. So you have really bad spacing around Trae. And his lob threat, his security blanket, he can't even make a layup no more. His defense has really regressed. Our 2 best shooters are on the bench, but you can't start them because the players above them are just better, so you can't really start them. So the Hawks are in a really weird situation, and I don't know what to do next with this team. A major retooling is going to happen. I've heard that their name has been linked to Pascal Siakam, but Pascal Siakam isn't a shooting threat either. Hopefully you don't get the same problem if you trade for Pascal Siakam. I've also heard rumors about Lauri Markkanen. That would be a really good piece to put next to Trae, but this team needs to figure it out, and they need to figure it out fast because they have no money. The owner is scared of going to the luxury tax to build a good team. I don't know what needs to happen to Atlanta, but something needs to happen fast. Next, I want to talk about the Detroit Pistons. Now, I know what you may be saying. The Detroit Pistons, what type of expectations did they have? Nobody really expected them to be a playoff team. Nobody expected this and that. But they have been rebuilding for about 3 years now. Has it been 3, 4, 5? They have been rebuilding for a minute now, and they haven't made no progression at all. It's really hard to see. They are on a 22-game losing streak right now. And the weird part about it is that they have been rebuilding like how you're supposed to. They have a bunch of lottery picks. They have 8+ lottery picks on their team. But the thing is that they fit terribly. Cade Cunningham was the #1 pick in the 2021 overall draft, and he has been as good as he possibly can be for this team. 21 points a game, 7 assists, but the thing is the spacing is terrible. And even though they've had all these lottery picks, they've always drafted the player that they're supposed to draft at the spot that they're at, but it still doesn't work out because it's such a weird fit. For example, they had the 5th pick this year. They picked up Ausar Thompson. Ausar Thompson was easily the best option to pick at number 5, but he fits terribly next to Cade. The kid can't shoot, and I love Ausar Thompson. His defense is great, but he's shooting 14% from 3. This is a terrible fit. Last year, they had to pick up Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey was the best option. He was probably the best player, but he has to come off of the bench as a second-year player because Cade Cunningham is a starter. He's better than him, you know? The spacing out there in Detroit is awful. The fit is awful. And with these guys being so young, it's really messing everything up. And they're having trouble stringing together wins. They have shown no growth. And I know it. You guys are probably you know, they're not supposed to be good. They're not supposed to be this and that. The Rockets are rebuilding a team the way that you should rebuild a team. They put together pieces that work. They're drafting the right pieces. And they went out. They got 2 really good veterans. And now they're 13-9. The Pistons have been the same team for 4 years now, and something needs to happen. I don't know what it is. I don't know what needs to help this team, but there is a huge problem out there in Detroit. Next, we need to talk about the Warriors. Now, the Warriors have, in my opinion, the greatest point guard of all time. When Steph Curry is on your team, there is no reason that you are not a playoff contender. Right now, the Warriors are the 11th seed. Now, what's going on in San Francisco? Now, I get it. We've seen LeBron James, we've seen Kevin Durant, we've seen Steph Curry play at an elite level well into their 30s. But we need to remember, we are talking about generational, all-world, all-time talents. Everybody's not like that. Klay Thompson has regressed. Draymond Green has regressed. So even 2 seasons ago, they were good enough to win a championship. That's not them no more. And it seems like Andrew Wiggins, who arguably could have been the second best player on that championship team 2 years ago, it seemed like Father Time caught up to him already at 28. In 2020, they messed up big time by drafting James Wiseman. They missed big time on that prospect, and he's not on the team no more. And during that time, they were trying to do a little movement, a young player, old player movement. So they had their old core with the Draymond Greens and the Klay Thompsons, but they were adding their old core with the Moses Moody's, the Jonathan Kumingas, and it hasn't really worked for them. It's kind of hurt their depth a little bit. It took Jonathan Kuminga a while to get onto the field, even though he's been playing really good right now. You have a bunch of young guys playing a lot of minutes, and you have a bunch of old guys playing major minutes. And it's like, okay, we don't have no consistency. We don't have no consistency. We don't have no chemistry. We're just riding on the back of Stephen Curry while everybody's just been poor. You know what I mean? So what does this team need to do? I think it's time for somebody to step up and say, it's time to separate the big three. I know it's weird to say, but Steph Curry is 35, and Father Time always finds a way to win. I don't know when it's going to happen with Steph Curry, but this could be his last elite season. We don't know. Steph Curry wants to win more championships. Steph Curry is championship hungry. You have to build a team around him right now that's going to get a championship. And I don't know how y'all are going to do that, but something needs to happen. Y'all need to make some moves. Y'all need to do something because this team has been very disappointing while Steph Curry is still playing at an MVP caliber level. And Draymond, when you hurt people, when you kick people, when you punch people, you're putting your team at a detriment, bro. Stop. I already talked about that in my last video. Make sure you go check that out. The last team I want to talk about is the Memphis Grizzlies. And I know what you might be saying. Okay, the Memphis Grizzlies don't have Ja Morant. How are they going to be good? They weren't supposed to be this bad. The Grizzlies were the last team in the NBA to come up with a win. They just paid Desmond Bane $260 million. They have Jaren Jackson, and it's not like that's the only 2 pieces they have. They have Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart is a former defensive player of the year. You have Marcus Smart and Jaren Jackson, and you were the last team to get a win. Now I get it. Ja Morant's gone. Steven Adams is gone. The original idea of the 25-game suspension was to be, okay, we have Marcus Smart. We just paid Desmond Bane. We have Jaren Jackson. We should be able to stay afloat. Right now, the Grizzlies are the 14th seed. If you bring back Ja Morant, I mean, you are already 6 games behind, and we all know how tight the NBA has been recently. Parity is so wild. Being down this much, that can cost you the season. Now, I have said in the past before, the Memphis Grizzlies, they should use this year to kind of regroup, bring that back some more depth. They have no wing depth. I think they overreacted with the Dillon Brooks situation. Dillon Brooks has been really good, and I get it. He can't score, but that is the only type of wing depth that you had, and you threw it away just because he liked to talk a lot. Forget the talking. He was still a really good player. I always said that he just needed to tone down the talking a little bit. So now you have Desmond Bane, you have Jaren Jackson, you have no wing depth, and you can't win games, which is so weird to me because they have a very good team. When Ja Morant comes back, what do I expect to happen? Well, I don't know. That's happening in 2 games, I think. I think we're 2 games away from it. I'm here for it. It's going to be exciting to see how the Grizzlies kind of bounce back if they're able to make that playoff push. But let me know what you guys think about these 4 teams. Let me know who your most disappointing teams have been. If you like basketball content like this, make sure you subscribe. You have to join the family. We building something here. Become an OG. We're going to be big one day. I appreciate y'all so much for watching though, but I'm out. Peace.